Summer 1941, Channel coastline. BF-109 pilots step from briefings, helmets dangling, confidence dripping like sweat. The new RAF Mosquito is dismissed as Mosquito Plywood, a carpenter's toy. No armor, no guns, just spruce and glue. One burst and it folds like matchsticks, they joke, tapping cigarettes against the table. Propaganda sheets pin the caricature, twin boom tail, cartoon pilot bailing out. The Luftwaffe laughs because wood belongs in furniture, not fighters. They have 20mm cannon, 700km/h dives, pilots forged in Spain and Poland. The sky is their hunting ground. Plywood is prey, not predator. Night after night they toast to easy kills, certain the war will be over before the splinters settle. The desert wind carries their confidence eastward, a tide of arrogance that seems as unstoppable as the sun itself.
Yet, even as the laughter fades into the cool desert night, a quiet British officer in a tent 200 miles east opens a folder marked Operation Bertram. Inside are sketches of rubber tanks, plywood guns, fake supply dumps the size of towns. Rommel's binoculars cannot see paper, his ears cannot hear whispered carpentry, his pride cannot imagine that the desert itself might be persuaded to lie. So the convoy rolls westward, headlights carving cones of certainty across the sand, each mile deeper into a trap that will be painted, not built, that will shine under sun but collapse under scrutiny, that will convince the fox he is still the hunter, while the real rats dig in behind a curtain of canvas and shadow. Tonight the fox sleeps confident. Tomorrow the desert will speak a different language, one that turns laughter into a question mark, echoing across the dunes. The cowboy joke will become the punchline Rommel never saw coming.
November 1940, Hatfield Aerodrome. The prototype DH-98 stands naked in primer, lines so clean it seems carved by wind itself. No rivets, no ribs showing, just a smooth wooden skin stretched over balsa and birch, bonded under pressure, baked like a giant violin. Geoffrey de Havilland steps back, eyes gleaming. She will outrun anything that can catch her and outfight anything that can run with her. Engineers tighten the last Merlin XX bolts, fuel lines purr, propellers spin into silver discs. The pilot advances the throttle. The airframe trembles, but the sound is different, tighter, higher, eager. At 380 miles per hour, the Mosquito lifts early, climbs like an arrow, the cockpit quiet because there is no armor plate to echo engine noise. Below, the Chase Spitfire pilot opens his throttle full, yet the wooden bomber walks away from him, gap widening with every heartbeat. Test cards fill with numbers that rewrite textbooks. 392 miles per hour at 20,000 feet, ceiling 33,000, range with bomb load longer than a B-17's. The wooden wonder is born, but secrecy wraps her like varnish. The Air Ministry stamps high priority yet refuses publicity. Let the enemy laugh a little longer. By spring 1941, the first production airframes leave the jigs. Fighter bomber, reconnaissance, night fighter, each variant lighter, faster, deadlier. Factory girls sand the wings until they shine like pianos. Men pour resin into seams that harden like steel welds. Every ounce of unnecessary metal is carved away. No turrets, no armor, just speed, altitude, surprise. The Luftwaffe will soon learn that wood, when shaped by desperation and genius, becomes a blade, and that blade is already being honed in English sheds, while German laughter still echoes across the channel. September 1942. Dawn over Cap Green-A. Feldwebel Klaus Müller lifts his 109G into pale light, cannon armed, eyes scanning for the usual Wellington or Sterling. Radar reports a fast twin-engine contact at 22,000 feet, speed unknown. Müller scoffs, another lumbering bus, and climbs at combat power. But the dot ahead does not swell, it shrinks. He shoves the throttle through war emergency, MW50 injection hissing, supercharger screaming, 109 shaking at 400 miles per hour indicated, yet the gap widens. Through the Revi sight, the enemy appears slender, no turrets, twin Merlins exhaling thin white trails. He fires a deflection burst at extreme range, tracers arc and fall short, swallowed by distance. The Mosquito simply walks away, altitude increasing, silhouette fading into morning haze. Mueller's cockpit is suddenly very quiet, the only sound the pounding of his own pulse against oxygen mask.
Back at dispersal, the laughter is gone. Pilots gather around the plotting map, tracing the impossible speed, over 415 miles per hour at 25,000 feet. The wooden bomber has outrun the fastest variant of their frontline fighter. Reports multiply. Same story from Norway, from the Bay of Biscay, from North Africa. The Mosquito becomes a ghost that appears at dusk, drops bombs, photographs ports, vanishes before interception. Ground crews begin calling it Die Holzgespenst, the wooden ghost. Some pilots refuse to believe the figures, insist the British must be using boosted engines or secret fuel, but the truth is simpler. Wood and glue, shaped like a bullet, driven by two Merlins tuned to the edge of reliability. The joke has turned. The hunter has become the hunted, and every Luftwaffe briefing now ends with the same grim reminder. If you see a Mosquito, aim once, because you won't get a second chance.
Inside the Mosquito, the world is different, quiet, almost civilized. The pilot sits ahead of the engines, sound deadened by plywood, vibration absorbed by balsa. He eases the throttles forward, the response is instant, the nose hunts upward, the altimeter whines like a watch. At 24,000 feet, he levels, adjusts prop pitch, and the speed needle climbs past 380, 390, 405 miles per hour indicated, numbers that make Spitfire pilots jealous. Below, the North Sea glitters like hammered silver. Ahead, the enemy coast approaches at a mile every 9 seconds. No turret to man, no armor to weigh him down. Just 4 20mm cannon in the nose and a bomb bay full of surprises. The navigator beside him plots a course that threads between flak belts, confident they can outclimb any fighter that scrambles. The wooden fuselage creaks softly, but it is the sound of a living thing flexing muscle, not groaning under stress. He pushes further, 415 miles per hour at 28,000 feet, engines singing at plus 16 pounds boost, exhaust stacks glowing white. Fuel flow climbs, but the Mosquito sips less per mile than a B-17 sips per minute. The cockpit stays warm, plywood is an insulator, cold metal a conductor, so crew fatigue drops, mission radius grows. When the first BF-109 appears, tiny as a gnat, he simply nudges the throttles again, and the gap widens effortlessly. The German pilot's tracer fades behind like cheap fireworks. In that moment, the Mosquito ceases to be a bomber. It becomes a statement. Speed is armor. Altitude is safety. Wood is war winning. The pilot grins inside his oxygen mask, knowing every mile per hour is a middle finger to every pilot who ever laughed at plywood. The wooden wonder has become the wooden wolf. In the sky is now its hunting ground. 25 September 1942, 0815 hours, Oslo Fjord. 4 Mosquitoes skim the water at 50 feet, prop wash carving white scars on black mirror. The Gestapo headquarters at Victoria Terrasse juts into view, stone, glass, Nazi flags. At 200 knots, the leader releases 4 500-pounders, the fjord erupting in geysers of spray and splinters. Anti-aircraft guns open too late, the Mosquitoes are already gone, throttles firewalled, engines howling at plus 18 boost. BF-110s scramble from Fornebu, but the British bombers simply outrun them, climbing through 300 miles per hour while the Messerschmitts struggle to reach 250. The raid lasts 63 seconds. The Gestapo building burns for days. Newsreels in London call it the fastest raid in history, proof that wood can strike like lightning and vanish like smoke.
The Oslo attack becomes legend, template for every future low-level strike. Pinpoint, high speed, no escort needed. Mosquitoes hit shipyards in Denmark, V-weapon sites in France, Gestapo cells in The Hague. Always the same pattern. Arrive below radar, drop, disappear. Losses are fraction of those suffered by heavy bomber groups. Luftwaffe pilots begin to dread the wooden whisper that appears at wave-top height, guns blazing, gone before wheels leave grass. Wood, glue, and 2 Merlins have rewritten the rules of air power. Speed is the new armor, and the hunters have become the hunted. The joke has flipped. The wooden wonder is now the wooden reaper, and the sky is its scythe. Winter 1943. Night over the North Sea. A Mosquito NF-2 lifts from Coltishall, AI Mk4 radar spinning under the nose. The radar operator watches the green cathode bloom, a blip at 15,000 feet. Heinkel, HE-111, inbound for Liverpool. The pilot advances throttles. The Mosquito climbs at 300 miles per hour indicated. Radar range closing at a mile every 12 seconds. The operator whispers corrections. Port 10, up 200, steady, contact 3 miles. The Heinkel crew never sees them. They are blind to the wooden ghost sliding beneath their belly. At 200 yards, the pilot fires 4 Hispano 20mm cannon, 4 seconds of tracer. The Heinkel's wing roots blossom in fire. The bomber folds into the black water below. The whole engagement lasts less than a minute. Another notch on the Mosquito's growing kill tally. By 1944, the Mosquito night fighter squadrons dominate German airspace over the Reich. Equipped with AI Mk8 and later Mk10 radar, they prowl the bomber streams, picking off HE-111s, Ju-88s, even the new Me-410s. German crews call them the Wooden Devils, aircraft that appear without warning, strike without mercy, vanish without trace. The Mosquito's speed allows it to patrol wider boxes, intercept faster, return sooner. Sortie rates double those of heavy night fighters. Some crews rack up 15 kills, their aircraft adorned with tiny coffin symbols painted under the cockpit rail. The Luftwaffe, once master of the night, now instructs bomber pilots to orbit in circles, to change altitude constantly, tactics that waste fuel and morale. The Mosquito has turned the night into British territory, wood and glue becoming the sword that cleaves the darkness. When the war ends, German night fighter aces will admit they feared the Mosquito more than any Spitfire or Mustang. Spring 1944, 40,000 feet above Berlin. Minus 60 degrees Celsius, oxygen masks frost white, but the Mosquito PR Mk9 cruises effortlessly at 415 miles per hour. Below, the Reich capital spreads like a detailed model. Brandenburg Gate, Tiergarten, the shattered Reichstag. The camera bay holds 4 F-52 cameras, lenses peering through heated glass, shutters clicking every 2 seconds. Anti-aircraft shells burst 2 miles below, the flak unable to reach this altitude. Me-262s climb, but their jets flame out in the thin air, and the Mosquito simply walks away, throttles barely above cruise. The pilot adjusts trim, the navigator marks waypoints, the aircraft rides the jet stream like a surfboard, returning to Britain with film that will fill Allied briefing rooms for weeks. These photo flights are the foundation of D-Day planning. Every rail yard, every coastal gun, every V-weapon site captured in pin-sharp 20-inch resolution. The Mosquito returns from Berlin in under 4 hours, faster than a Spitfire can reach Paris and back. Ground crews develop the film while the engines are still ticking hot. Intelligence officers spread the photographs across tables the size of tennis courts, circling targets that will be bombed, bridges that will be seized, roads that will be strafed. The Luftwaffe watches the films later, stunned that an enemy aircraft can overfly the Reich capital at will, return safely, and do it again the next day. The wooden wonder has become the wooden eye, and Berlin is blind to its gaze. Speed, altitude, wood. Three simple ingredients that turned a bomber into a spy into a legend, and a legend into the blueprint for victory.
North Africa, 1943. The Mosquito has followed the 8th Army across the desert, landing on strips bulldozed from sand. Temperature, 45 degrees centigrade. Engines cooled by tarpaulin shade and buckets of precious water. Ground crews strip sand filters from intakes, change oil and dust storms, patch bullet holes with plywood discs and resin. The aircraft bears victory markings, tiny swastikas under the cockpit, Luftwaffe fighters that tried to intercept and failed. Each kill represents a Bf-109 that could not match the Mosquito's speed at low level. Each patch a testament to wood's ability to absorb battle damage without shattering. Mechanics swear the airframe is easier to repair than a hurricane. Saw, glue, clamp, fly again next dawn.
In the desert, the Mosquito performs roles no other aircraft can. Long-range reconnaissance over the Mediterranean, strike against Africa Corps supply columns, even night intruder missions against Luftwaffe airfields in Tunisia. The wooden fuselage does not overheat like metal. Pilots rest easier in cockpits that stay cool under the Saharan sun. When Montgomery launches the final push at El Alamein, Mosquito photos reveal every German gun line, every mine belt, every panzer concentration. The attack succeeds with minimal losses, and Monty himself sends a signal to the wooden wonder, well done. The Desert Fox has been outrun, outspied, outfought by a wooden bird. Sandstorms erase the tire tracks, but the legend is carved into the sky. Plywood can beat steel when speed is the armor and surprise the sword.
1944. Low-level raid on Gestapo HQ in The Hague. Flak towers open with 88mm and 37mm crossfire. The sky blossoms black and red. A direct burst tears a dinner plate hole through the port wing, plywood ribs exposed like broken bone. Yet the Mosquito does not falter. The pilot feels only a slight tremor. The aircraft still accelerates. Wood absorbs shock. Splinters do not propagate like metal cracks. Navigator snaps photos through the hole, evidence that will later prove the aircraft flew through hell and returned. Fuel lines intact, Merlins still singing. The bomber races outbound at 360 miles per hour, leaving the flak gunners staring at empty sky. Back at base, engineers measure the damage. 2 ribs shattered, skin peeled back 2 feet, yet structural strength remains within limits. They patch the gap with a plywood sheet, resin, and clamps. The repair cures overnight while the crew sleeps. Next dawn, the same airframe lifts off again, the wound now a badge of honor. Ground crew joke that Mosquitos are self-healing. Bullet holes vanish under resin. Shrapnel scars become part of the grain. By war's end, some airframes fly 120 missions, patched like quilts, still outrunning fighters half their age. The wooden wonder has become the wooden phoenix, rising from every flak burst faster than before, teaching the world that resilience is not always about thickness, it is about giving way without breaking, about speed that makes holes irrelevant, about being too quick to die. May 1945. Victory patrol over liberated Brussels. A Mosquito FB.6 throttles back, the setting sun igniting the plywood skin like polished bronze. Below, crowds wave, champagne bottles held high, the aircraft's shadows sliding across rooftops still scarred by war. The pilot rocks his wings, once, twice. The crowd cheers louder, recognizing the wooden bird that had come to symbolize speed, surprise, survival. In the cockpit, the crew count the missions: 87 sorties, 0 interception successes by the enemy, 40,000 miles flown faster than any other bomber in the theater. The Merlins purr, props carving the first peacetime sky they have ever known. The war is over, but the Mosquito still flies, a living contradiction that wood outran steel, that simplicity outsmarted complexity, that laughter was answered by legend.
When the engines finally shut down, the airframe will go to museums, to textbooks, to engineering lectures where students will ask how plywood beat aluminium. The answer is carved into every mile per hour. Speed is armor. Altitude is sanctuary. Simplicity is genius. The Luftwaffe pilots who once jeered now sit in captivity, writing memoirs that admit the wooden wonder was the one aircraft they could not catch. The Mosquito returns to base one last time. Touchdown gentle, engines sighing, the scent of hot resin drifting across the grass. The crew climb out, boots on tarmac, and the aircraft stands silent. Wood, glue, and 2 Merlins that change the shape of the sky. The joke is over. The legend has only just begun. The wooden wonder has become the wooden immortal, and the sky will remember it long after the laughter has died.